Okay, we are live. So, welcome everyone for the 22nd episode of Let's Talk. Higual and Dono, Let's Talk. E salve a tutti ragazzi e ben ritrovati in questo nuovo episodio del Let's Talk, il 22esimo episodio del Let's Talk. Parlerò un po' in inglese e un po' in italiano. I will talk a bit of English and a bit of Italian because now we have an international guest, a very important guest. Thank you very much, Top Out Corner. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for you guys having me on here. This is exciting.
Yeah, we are too grateful for it because it's the first time that Higual and Dono Let's Talk gets a very special international guest like you. So you have also a very important number of subscribes, not like us, but we are very, very pleasure for it, and we hope that your fans will follow us in this live. So I will also say hello to my partner in crime, Ono. Saluto il mio amico Ono, ciao.
Io parlo solo in italiano perché in inglese faccio la figura dello stronzo. Benvenuti ragazzi a questa nuova live, spero siate tantissimi e ovviamente un benvenuto al nostro nuovo amico internazionale direttamente dagli Stati Uniti, dal suo enorme canale Top Out Corner. Grazie Zach per essere qui con noi.
Thank you. I heard a little tap out corner in there, so I'm assuming you're addressing me.
So you wanna say hello to the Italian fans?
Absolutely. Hey guys,
Yeah.
thank you for you guys that are watching.
Italian, but in Italian. I want in Italian, so I will teach you.
Oh
Ciao
yeah, absolutely.
Ciao a tutti ragazzi.
Ciao a tutti ragazzi.
Perfect.
Oh yes, first try.
So now we have a very, very important number of arguments to talk about.
Yeah.
And because Royal Rumble has gone, but a new pay-per-view is arriving on WWE, and we will watch Elimination Chamber. So the last episode of Raw was very important because it was very important for the feuds, for the rivalities, and also for the WWE Championship. So if you enjoy it, we can talk about the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre, and everything that was around this important character. But first, if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do it now. It's free, and so you can do it now. I say hello to our friend Pietro Bovesecco, who is an Italian wrestler. He's pretty good. So hello Pietro. Now, so talk about the WWE Championship. What do you think about the reign of Drew McIntyre, and what do you think about the future of this important title in WWE?
Really looking forward to it. I felt like ever since like last year, they've been really booking Drew McIntyre really well, which is something I think they've been needing to do because there's always been that argument for years and years about WWE needs to make new stars and whatnot, and they're relying so heavily on these older performers and whatnot, which, you know, has its benefits and whatnot. But I think they're doing a really good job with Drew McIntyre. Like I even did a little video back in December looking at, you know, who won the most matches, you know, who lost the most matches, and the person who won the most matches in WWE last year in total, counting the few untelevised events they had at the beginning of 2020, was Drew McIntyre. So I mean, that's proof right there that they've definitely been pushing him really hard and really making him out to be a star. You know, we've seen that where, like with Rey Mysterio back in 2006, where, you know, new guy, he won his first world title at WrestleMania, and then they just kind of gave up with them booking wise. He was always losing, you know, and they never really gave him the actual push he needed. You know, it's one thing to put the title on a guy, but it's another to make them seem like a legitimate champion. And I think they're doing a really great job with Drew McIntyre on that right now. So especially now with Edge back and Christian, even all those returns that we saw at the Royal Rumble, I'm really excited to see kind of what they can do with that. Like especially particularly Christian, because I had no idea he was coming back at the Rumble. So that was a huge surprise to me. He's someone I thought would never be back, but seeing him back in the ring was awesome. And both him and Edge back, I think there's just a ton of possibilities, both of them, singles wise, and then also as a tag team. Like I could definitely see the Edge and Christian, the Usos having some really awesome matches together. So there's a lot of exciting going on. But with Drew McIntyre, I think they've been doing a really great job, and I'm excited to see. It'll be the 1 year anniversary coming up when he won the WWE Championship for the first time at WrestleMania. So excited to see how that goes down. I'm excited to see if he'll retain and keep holding on to the championship, or if at this upcoming WrestleMania that'll be where the reign of Drew McIntyre comes to an end. So, but so far I'm really, really enjoying what they've been doing with Drew McIntyre for this past year, roughly. You still there, Eagle? I think you may have frozen up.
Allora, mi sa che Eagle... Leo, ci sei?
Some technical difficulty, but...
Wait a moment.
There we go. Get the technical bugs all figured out there, but yeah, if it's so cool with you, I'll just keep going. Because one thing too, kind of we were talking about the WWE Championship in the men's side, but also going back to the Royal Rumble this year, as Bianca Belaire winning, I was especially towards the end there it was Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belaire, the final three in the women's Royal Rumble match, and both those three, I kind of was really like, I could see either way going. I could see Charlotte winning, I could see Rhea Ripley winning the women's Royal Rumble, but seeing Bianca Belaire I thought was really awesome. And again, I feel like it was another kind of similar to Drew McIntyre, where I think they're starting to work towards building new stars and really pushing some of these younger talents and whatnot, which is, they've always been trying to do that, I feel like, but I think they're really starting to make an effort to really go forward with it, not just do a kind of one-time deal. Like with Drew McIntyre, I think is a perfect example of someone they've continuously pushed and continuously made to look strong in a main eventer, and they haven't really given up on him, which is great to see. So I'm excited for Bianca Belaire as well to see what happens, what will come of her WrestleMania match, and where will happen after that. If she'll win the title or what will go on. So
thank you for your answer, and sorry if I have lost my connection, but in my place there is a bad weather today. Every day is sunny, but today no, and the weather doesn't love me probably. So for our followers that are Italian, Tapot Corner ha detto che lui apprezza veramente tanto Drew McIntyre, che il suo regno lo ha convinto, e che questo è uno dei motivi per il quale la WWE dovrebbe veramente spingere su quelli che sono gli atleti del futuro, possiamo dire, degli atleti che hanno bisogno di un push, e che poi quindi di conseguenza possono portare qualcosa di estremamente positivo anche alla compagnia. Si è detto comunque anche molto molto colpito dal ritorno di Edge e Christian. So now about Edge and Christian, let's talk about Edge, because Edge, who was the winner of the Royal Rumble, someone says that Edge needs the WWE Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have one question for you. So, do you see Edge a future WWE champion or Universal champion? Who do you prefer to be against Edge at WrestleMania? In my opinion, Roman Reigns. I prefer Roman Reigns also because you know, but the followers didn't know. I am a Drew McIntyre mark, so this is my cover, guys, and you can see that. So now, tell us.
Yeah, Edge as the WWE champion. I do kind of agree with you, Eagle. On I kind of feel like Roman Reigns could be the better opponent. One, I do prefer more the heel versus face dynamic as opposed to Drew McIntyre, unless there was some change like Drew became heel or Edge became heel, which I don't think really should happen right now. But I do generally prefer good guy versus bad guy. And so we get that with Roman Reigns. And we'd also get the cool, spear versus spear. I think that would add a little bit more intrigue into the match as well. And so, but unless there's something changes, like an elimination chamber or whatnot. But between the two right now, I would say Roman Reigns versus Edge, I think would be the better match. And as for him winning the title, that's one thing where I'm kind of because there's always that kind of been that issue of, the old, not to call Edge an older guy, but, someone who is, an Attitude Era star and whatnot, not the youngest guy on the roster currently, but seeing him, get the title, I'm like, I think there would be a way of pulling it off, but I think you'd be kind of careful because, they've always been in that mode. And Vince McMahon himself has even said, we need to build new stars, and I think, giving Edge the WWE Championship might not be moving so close to that direction of building new stars, but I think there still is a good storyline there because, Edge retired in 2011 with the World Heavyweight Championship. And I think that storyline of, this guy coming out of retirement for one more go, his career got cut off and, that he could still go, he could still climb that mountain, still become world champion. And I think there's a good storyline in there too. So I guess I tend to probably lean between the two, probably saying maybe not have him win the title. Again, focus on the younger talent. That'll be the future of the company. But I think there still is you could still do a really great storyline with Edge winning the title, and tying that into how he retired back in 2011.
Yeah. So if I have understand well, you prefer Roman Reigns, and you think that Edge has a very great storyline, but probably WWE must invest to the future of the company also, no? Yeah, I have understand what you say.
Yep, exactly.
Ok, perfetto. So, qui Tapot Corner ci dice che certo, sicuramente Roman Reigns potrebbe essere un match molto più intrigante anche in vista di Wrestlemania, considerando anche il personaggio di Roman Reigns. Tuttavia, la vittoria di Edge alla Royal Rumble lui l'ha molto apprezzata perché è stata una storyline che è stata costruita bene, però forse la WWE farebbe bene anche a puntare sul futuro, sui personaggi futuri. Talking about Edge, do you enjoyed the modality of the win? Because he was an injured one, so and he starts Royal Rumble with number 1. He lasts in Royal Rumble for 58 minutes. Isn't it too much for you?
For Edge in the Royal Rumble, did he last too long?
Yeah, it's a good story for Edge, okay, but number 1 enter and after win the Royal Rumble, isn't it too much?
I guess maybe a little bit because I always kind of fear the number 1 position. That's an easy spot for the Iron Man of the Royal Rumble, the guy or gal who's going to last the longest. And I think even if the Iron Man, the person who lasts the longest, doesn't win the Royal Rumble, I think that still gives them a bit of push, gives them some momentum, just because, hey, I didn't win, but I lasted, for nearly an hour, kind of showing their toughness. And so kind of, I think it gives Edge a lot of momentum, pushes them really far. Not only did he come back after that, match with Randy Orton, but he also he was the longest person in the Royal Rumble. Well, Randy Orton kind of technically was in there also for the longest, but he lasted for longest as anybody else in that match, and then also won. So really kind of put a lot of momentum on Edge, which in some ways I can agree with. Kind of go big or go home in that sense of just really, really push him, as opposed to having Edge enter towards the end, and having him win and giving that Iron Man position to someone else. I think it does make sense to give the Iron Man title and then also the Royal Rumble winner to Edge, and so I can see kind of that. But then again, going back to that argument of building newer stars, I would maybe lean towards having Edge enter a little bit later in the Royal Rumble, have someone else start out, and then giving that honor of being the Iron Man to maybe like a newer talent to kind of start building them up. And so that's maybe how I would have potentially have done it. But at the same time, I can see there's merit in having Edge, not only win the Royal Rumble, but he was the one who started at the beginning and lasted till the end. Gives him a ton of momentum going into that mat and going into WrestleMania. So I think I would have probably leaned towards giving the Iron Man title to someone else, a younger star. But I think the way they did it was, had its benefits to it. I don't think it was the worst possible outcome that WWE did.
Qui Tabot Corner ci dice che sicuramente è conforme alla storyline il numero 1 per Edge, molto probabilmente però anche il titolo come Iron Man poteva andare ad un atleta che poi molto probabilmente poteva essere costruito. I think that you have said that probably someone else could be the Iron Man on Royal Rumble. But the number 1 entrance for Edge is also good for his storyline. So, another question for you. Now talk about the female Royal Rumble, because I really enjoy it, but only with the eyes of a Mark fan, because with the eyes of a Mark fan, you can see this Royal Rumble match, the female Royal Rumble match, really good. But if you see the match with the smart one, probably someone is not too good, no? Because I've seen, the victory of Bianca Belaire, that I liked too much. But the one, the thing that happened to Alexa Bliss, the elimination of Bailey, that are not so good.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like for me, kind of my favorite women on the women's WWE roster currently would probably be like Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, the Riott Squad, and I also really like what Alexa Bliss has been doing for the Fiend and stuff. So I kind of knew like, okay, Alexa Bliss probably isn't gonna be winning because she's doing that stuff with the Fiend and Randy Orton sort of, and so and then I kind of knew like, Riott Squad isn't gonna be winning. So but I did really like. I was kind of mentioning it a little bit earlier, but I did really enjoy the finish in the sense of the ending of the Women's Royal Rumble, because you had Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and then also Bianca Belaire as the final 3. And the thing I liked about having those 3 women in there at the very end was that it seemed possible for any of those 3 to win the match. And I love that kind of unpredictability. I could see them going with Charlotte Flair again, making her a 2-time Royal Rumble winner, and going on to WrestleMania, winning whatever number of championship. I could see Rhea Ripley as well. She's another one they've really been pushing. She's been admittedly a main event star on the women's side. And then Bianca Belaire with how much they've been putting into her on Smackdown, and then also the documentary that they recently released on the WWE Network about Belaire. So that was the thing I think I enjoyed the most about the Women's Royal Rumble, was that the ending, just not knowing who could win. There's that legit unpredictability in there, at least for me. So that was kind of my thoughts on the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it was so good, and the last one, Bianca Belaire with Rhea Ripley, they had a very, very special fight. So it was too good, and they are the future of the WWE.
Exactly.
Do you prefer Rhea Ripley or Bianca Belaire? But I've questioned this this one to you, because in Italy, everyone, not everyone, but someone of the wrestling web, he's very hungry with WWE because they said, Rhea Ripley last year lost to Charlotte. This year lost the Royal Rumble. So what WWE wants to do with Rhea Ripley, but I really disagree with that, because I think that Rhea Ripley is 23 years old. She has a future behind for her career.
Yeah.
And she lost to Charlotte last year. She didn't lost to Billie Kay, with all of the respect for Billie Kay, but she lost to Charlotte, the best woman on WWE roster, in my opinion. And this year was the very MVP of the Royal Rumble. So I really disagree with this hungry with the WWE. I don't know what you think about, and who you prefer to between Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair.
Yeah, no, I can see what you're saying about, or what others are saying about that whole case with Rhea Ripley, and how, you know, she lost at last year's WrestleMania, and then, you know, she also lost here at the Royal Rumble. And so I guess I would be, if I was more of a Rhea Ripley fan, I guess I would probably be a little bit more, I guess I probably would be frustrated by it, but I guess I'd be a little more concerned if it was like, maybe at this year's WrestleMania, she once again loses her match, you know, if she has a match on the show. And so, but I do kind of agree with what you're saying. You know, she's still really young, and I guess my philosophy on wrestling is that I never feel like anyone's truly buried. You know, maybe it's just being optimistic or naive, but my kind of thought is like, no matter how, you know, like, how's the word I'm looking for? I guess buried, for lack of a better term. You know, no matter how, like, how many times they lose, or how many gimmicks they go through, or how many rivalries they have, you know, like, I always feel like that anyone can come back. You know, it's all a case of just creating a really good storyline for them, putting them with the right people, and then also just giving it time. So I guess I'm never really concerned, like, oh man, this person's, you know, so buried, they're not gonna be able to come back. You know, they're never gonna be able to be a main event star again. You know, I guess there's a little bit of concern with, you know, how WWE handles it, because, you know, someone might still be, you know, have that potential for a main event spot, like, you know, Cesaro, for example, but, you know, the company is just, for them, you know, that either he or she or whoever isn't going to be in that spot. And so, but between the two, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, I guess I would probably, between those two ladies, I'd probably prefer Bianca Belair. Yeah. And that's mainly because I watch Raw and Smackdown each week. I don't actually watch NXT, unfortunately. Yeah. And so
me too.
I'm just more familiar with Bianca Belair. And so, so that's probably kind of my default reason. Just I've seen her a bit more often than Rhea Ripley. So not the most compelling answer to that question, but that's the truth.
Yeah. So also because probably Bianca Belair is more familiar to the WWE product, no? Not only for the in-ring ability, but also with mixed skills. She is very, very comfortable in a WWE product. Rhea Ripley is a little bit different. He's a real and important character, but it's different. So when I think about WWE, I think about superstars like Bianca Belair. So probably also for it, no? Da Pot Corner ci diceva, intanto, per quanto riguarda il Royal Rumble match femminile, che a lui è piaciuto il Royal Rumble match femminile, che lui anche come me ha avuto una visione, diciamo, un po', diciamo, sia di amore che di odio, possiamo dire. Inoltre gli è piaciuto veramente tantissimo anche lo spot finale, dove Bianca Belair, Charlotte e Rhea Ripley si sono scontrate. Ne abbiamo avuto, diciamo, delle ottime contendenti fino alla fine, e ha amato veramente lo spot finale anche fra le stesse Bianca Belair e Rhea Ripley. Inoltre ha detto poi di preferire Bianca Belair perché, a parte il fatto che non segue molto NXT, la vede molto più vicina ad un prodotto WWE, o comunque in genere ad un prodotto che in cui si rivede maggiormente, possiamo dire. So another one question. Sorry. e che inoltre non ha pensato assolutissimamente, come ha fatto qualcuno nel wrestling web, che Rhea Ripley sia stata, diciamo, sotterrata dalla WWE. Anzi, nient'altro. Ha comunque avuto un match con Charlotte, quest'anno è stata l'MVP, diciamo, la pensa alla mia stessa maniera. So, another one question. Do you think, yes or no, do you think after WrestleMania, Bianca Belaire will be the WWE Smackdown champion?
I think so. I think they're going to keep going forward because, to me, I guess kind of recently started getting back into Smackdown, watching them more regularly. But I kind of noticed that it's been a pretty recent push for Bianca Belaire. Like, they've really just started pushing her, and whatnot. This is just the beginning. So I feel like that they will go ahead and she'll win the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania this year. And so I think it's just a little too early for them to go away from that push. I'd be surprised if she lost. And Sasha Banks is the current SmackDown Women's Champion, and I feel like it's be more beneficial for Bianca Belaire to win that title than Sasha, because I feel like Sasha is kind of a made star at this point. Like she'd have to lose a ton of matches. She'd have to be in some really ridiculous storylines in order for her popularity to decrease, especially now that she's in Mandalorian. She's breaking out into the mainstream spotlight. And so I think it's again more beneficial for Bianca Belaire to win the title. I think it won't really damage Sasha Banks's career as much, but I can see this it hurting Bianca Belaire if she loses, because you have all this momentum right now. There's a lot of excitement for Bianca Belaire, and for it just to kind of die at that big moment at WrestleMania, I think would be not the best decision. I think, again, going back to my philosophy, I think she could, if you had her lose at WrestleMania for whatever reason, she could have another chance, but I feel like it just wouldn't be as big, if they decided to like, hey, well, we're not going to win the title at WrestleMania, you'll win it at SummerSlam. It just wouldn't be as big. I think WrestleMania is the destination for that. I think they want the biggest reaction to make it the biggest moment. It has to be at WrestleMania this year for Bianca Belaire to win the title. So I'm confident that she's going to win the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania.
Sì, Tapot Corner ci dice che è abbastanza sicuro che vincerà il titolo in quel di WrestleMania. So Bianca Belaire, next Women's SmackDown Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there is a comment from Wrestler Monster. If you're not subscribed, do it now. Roman Reigns versus Goldberg could be a WrestleMania, and Edge versus AJ Styles or Edge versus Sheamus could be a WrestleMania. Now, I have read this comment because I have one question for you. So, there will be the Elimination Chamber this month, and according to it, there will be an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship, in which we can found Drew McIntyre, The Miz. That I really like The Miz, but I don't know why WWE choose to put The Miz in this match, because he also have the briefcase. So why? Sheamus, AJ Styles, and the other two. Now I didn't remember. So okay, but do you think that someone could be the next WWE champion after Elimination Chamber? Someone such as AJ Styles?
I guess I don't really feel like that Drew McIntyre is going to lose his title at Elimination Chamber. I think especially too with his the kind of storyline, so to speak, of him winning the title for the first time at WrestleMania. I think that'll be a huge moment just by himself, walking into WrestleMania with the WWE Championship, 1 year after he won it at the same event. And I've noticed too, we were talking a little bit about this before, but how a lot of times, the last time I can think that a WWE Championship changed hands in the Elimination Chamber was, I think, 2017. I might be wrong on that, but that's the most recent I can remember. And that's one thing I like the Elimination Chamber. I think it's a cool concept, but one thing that always kind of makes me not so excited about it is it always seems like the plans are already in place. You kind of know, like, okay, this person's going to retain their title because we already got this storyline set up with the Royal Rumble match and, you know, all this. So, but for the WWE Championship match, I think Drew McIntyre is going to retain. Then he'll go on to face whoever at WrestleMania. So, but I'm confident that Drew McIntyre will be walking out with his WWE Championship in hand.
Ci dice che secondo lui Drew McIntyre difficilmente perderà il titolo in quel dell'Elimination Chamber, ma che molto probabilmente arriverà come campione dopo un anno anche nello Showcase of Immortals, cioè WrestleMania. So, according to it, the other two are Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. Sorry guys, but I have seen this. There are so much matches about Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre that I completely forget.
Yeah. Take a break from it for a while.
Yeah. So, do you think that Sheamus against Drew McIntyre could be a WrestleMania match? Because Sheamus, is very good wrestler, or a very, very good professional wrestler, because he's an important worker, but someone here in Italy says that Sheamus doesn't has the status to be the one who will fight Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. What do you think about? I think that with a special construction, probably with the Celtic Warrior and not this Sheamus, we will be very, very involved in this feud, in this rivalry.
Yeah, I guess at this moment, because I was kind of thinking about that, and like, I don't know, because they had that heel turn with Sheamus on Raw recently, and so, but I guess I'm still, part of the reason I'm thinking maybe not at the moment is just because I'm still questioning it, like, would this be a WrestleMania match? And so, but I think as it stands right now, I think that saying no probably wouldn't be leaning towards Sheamus versus McIntyre at WrestleMania, but WrestleMania is still like roughly a little over a month and a half away, and so I think there's still time where they can really build up that storyline, because that for me is one of the biggest things is usually, can we make a great storyline on this, and that's kind of the thing for myself, where if you can make a really great storyline, and obviously you need to have a great match, but for me the bigger one is if we can have a great storyline around the match. And so right now I'm kind of like, I don't think the elements are quite there, but there's still plenty of time. We have Elimination Chamber and then Fastlane in between now and WrestleMania, so I think there's still time where they could just add some more, I don't know, drama or whatever to the storyline. And I think I have to go back a little bit, but I think that Sheamus and McIntyre do have a little bit of history together, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think there's definitely, you can tie that in to, just give it a little bit more excitement. So I think there's potential where they could build up a storyline with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus and have a match at WrestleMania. But kind of at the moment, I'm still kind of like, as it stands right now, I'm like, not quite. Maybe, a pay-per-view, maybe it could be a fast lane match, but I don't see quite WrestleMania at the moment for McIntyre and Sheamus.
Yeah. Dice praticamente che al momento diciamo che ancora c'è qualcosa da costruire, questo sicuramente, anche se comunque potenzialmente questo match si può fare perché c'è anche una storia già scritta, perché i due, Sheamus e Drew McIntyre, hanno una conoscenza ormai ventennale, e poi ci sono in mezzo ancora 2 pay-per-view, quindi ancora si può creare veramente, veramente di tutto. Yeah, you're right, because Sheamus and Drew McIntyre have a very special friendship. They are 20 years of friendship, and so you're right when you say, I am not so convinced, but they have the potential to do a great thing, also because they have already the story written. So it's all about this. So let's talk about another topic that we have talked about WWE Championship. We have talked about the Royal Rumble match for the women's. So Bianca Bellaire
Yeah.
But now I want to talk about a secondary title, like the United States title.
Mhm.
So in this in the last episode of Raw, we have seen a triple threat match between Riddle, Keith Lee, and a very good Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley, I think now he is in his best time in WWE in this moment.
Mhm.
So, what do you think about the Heart Business? And I really think that the Heart Business at the moment is the best stable on the WWE.
Yeah, no, they've been awesome, and it's still one of those things where I remember back, when they first started forming, and I thought like, oh man, this is really cool, stable with MVP, as the leader and whatnot, and then you have Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, two kind of the veterans, and then a little bit later, Cedric Alexander joined in. He's kind of a little bit more the younger one and whatnot, and brings a little bit of a different style to the group. I still not huge on the name, the Hurt Business. It's like I would have probably can we come up with something a little bit different? But I've kind of gotten used to it at this point, so it's like okay, it's whatever. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say like, oh, that's an awful name. Why they choose that? But it's just one of those minor things. But anyways, as for them, I really still like what they're doing with it. But it does seem like they're starting to tease the breakup for it. So I kind of wonder if this is going to lead to some type of match at WrestleMania. I don't know what it'll be exactly. If they go like fatal four-way, every man for himself, or what it'll be exactly. And so I still would love to see, because I don't think they've done it unless I'm just completely blanking out, but I still love to see Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg at some point. I think both their styles and whatnot, just being two humongous wrestlers, two big machines, would still be a great match. And I think too, it seems like between Goldberg and Bobby Lashley, that Bobby Lashley still has a little bit more time on his career. Obviously he's been doing this for a while, so he's not, going to be still, getting a little bit older and whatnot. But I definitely think this would be great. Having Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley could be a really great way to build him up, and like, hey, even have it be a United States Championship match at WrestleMania. I think Goldberg does his contract says he has to do 3 matches, a year.
Yeah.
So, get Goldberg on there. He's a great marquee name. And then have him do a match with Bobby Lashley, just do 5 minutes or less, it's a great way, I think, to elevate Bobby Lashley. And then also, a great way to elevate the United States Championship, having someone of Goldberg's status compete for it. So that's still one match I'd love to see, as well as still want to see Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley as well. So, I mean, a lot of dream matches. I think there's a lot of potential still with Bobby Lashley, but Hurt Business in general, I think, has been one of the better factions recently. It was definitely one of the better parts of 2020 in WWE, and excited to see what happens, because again, they are teasing the breakup between the Hurt Business. So
I really hope they don't split, because they are very good. And if Goldberg and Bobby Lashley will fight themselves, I will call you.
Sounds awesome.
Ci dice Tabot Corner che sì, sicuramente al momento l'Art Business è una delle migliori attrazioni al momento in WWE, considerando anche quello che sono stati i ruoli di MVP in particolare, e ha apprezzato moltissimo anche il ruolo di Bobby Lashley, che secondo lui è in un ottimo momento, e secondo lo stesso Tabot Corner un match tra Bobby Lashley e Goldberg sarebbe fantastico. Sa che Goldberg è comunque un atleta un po' avanti con l'età, però lo star power c'è. So, about Goldberg. But first of all, I will say hello to my friend, Hi Rest in Pills. He is an Italian YouTube channel that makes me laugh every day. This is too good. So, Tapat Corner, if you want to subscribe to his channel also, and I will say hello also to Sheridan, our biggest fan, we can see, that who says, I am lucky that there is the translation, because I didn't understand anything. So You're welcome, Sheldon. Non c'è di che. So, another question. You have talked about Goldberg. And Goldberg, yeah, is a little bit older than the other ones on the WWE roster. But I have understand that you didn't hate him. So, because he has the star power. And I agree with you. I didn't like too much I didn't like too much the fact that Goldberg has gone to Drew McIntyre with the promo that was a promo with improvisated, but I have really enjoyed that Goldberg lost to Drew McIntyre, because with this victory, Drew McIntyre could be very pushed. It was. So what do you think about the role of Goldberg?
Yes, yeah. For me, like it was obviously cool back in 2016 when he came back and everything. And I guess I didn't rule out, like I thought him winning the WWE or no, the Universal Championship twice was. I should think that he couldn't win it, and I think that there was definitely some good storyline opportunities there. But now, so I would say, kind of look at him as more of, I don't want to say enhancement, but like, for example, I thought he did great with Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble. I think it was awesome that they had those two guys start out, because it's just, a big hoss match. It's two huge guys throwing everything at each other. It just finisher after finisher, jackhammer, spear, claymore kick, all that stuff. And so I think it was like the role that Goldberg had in there, where he was kind of really enhanced Drew McIntyre. I think it was a great role. I don't necessarily think that Goldberg should be losing all of his matches from this point forward and always just be there as a guy to make younger or newer talent look good. I think he can still definitely pick up wins here and there, but I do definitely kind of see him as a great way of elevating people. And just by having a match with Goldberg, I think elevates a star, being like, just like how Undertaker sort of did. Like, remember Undertaker and Jeff Hardy's match in 2002? Like, yeah, Jeff Hardy lost that match, but I think it still helped elevate him that he was able to go toe to toe with, a legend like the Undertaker. And Goldberg's to a little bit of a lesser extent than the Undertaker, since, Goldberg hasn't been around as much. He was more of a WCW guy, but I think he still has that ability to help enhance people, one, just by wrestling them, but then two, by having guys beat them. And so, and kind of again, like the Lashley versus Goldberg match I want to see at WrestleMania, I think that would be another case where I think they could really enhance Lashley. It's not quite the same, not necessarily a brand new young up and comer, but I think he'll be around for a few more years. And so that's kind of the role I think for Goldberg, seeing him. It's kind of this way of helping elevate newer, younger talent. And I think too, just having some really awesome matches, like I think just having Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg would be an awesome match. The match that Goldberg had with Brock Lesnar, that little rivalry they had between 2016 and 2017 was really good. That's just one of those big matches I think a lot of people want to see him bring in a lot of eyes. So I think those are two roles that Goldberg can really work, is really great for him, is helping elevate the newer talent, and also just having some really big marquee matches on those pay-per-views where they need them. I can think of a number where that would be great for Goldberg. Like if John Cena, I know he's saying that he isn't going to be at WrestleMania this year, but I think seeing Goldberg versus John Cena would still be an awesome match. I think they still have time where, if they can work things out between the two guys, I think they could still make it happen. So I think that's a great role for him, just being there to enhance people, and then also have those big marquee matches, for the pay-per-views and whatnot.
So do you think that Goldberg could be a double role? One role for elevating the other ones that who work in WWE, and also to do some important matches with some other legends. No, if I have understand good. Well, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on. Yeah, enhancing people because he's a legend, he's a Hall of Famer. You know, getting over Goldberg is still a huge thing. And then two, yeah, there's just so many matches, especially, you know, since Goldberg was still gone, you know, for so long. You know, there's still a number of matches I think that would be kind of dream matches. Again, John Cena versus Goldberg, I think, is on there. And so I think, yeah, just having that role of, you know, hey, we need, you know, something to make the show a little bit bigger. You know, okay, let's have Goldberg come back. You know, I think he still has that ability to draw people in, you know, especially older fans who, you know, watch wrestling in the 90s, they kind of stop, but they're like, oh, I know who Goldberg is, you know.
Yeah.
I'll tune into Raw, I'll tune into SmackDown, I'll go watch this pay-per-view. You know, I think he still has that ability. So I think that'd be the kind of the role I would have him in if I was running WWE and had control. So
Ci dice che praticamente secondo lui il ruolo di Goldberg potrebbe essere anche quello di far avvicinare dei fan di vecchia data, in un certo senso, che poi magari possono dire guarda, stasera c'è Goldberg, perché non guardiamo la puntata? Ed inoltre ci dice che il suo ruolo potrebbe essere quello di combattere con altre leggende e, se viene utilizzato magari contro atleti del momento, magari si possono anche incontrare delle zone di comfort per questi ultimi, magari cercando di elevare lo status di questi nuovi atleti. So now one of the last question to you. Talk about the one that was not nominated this evening. Let's talk. That he is also the name of our podcast. Let's talk about the Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. So I think that we have waited too much to see this character, because we have waited 10 years to have this tribal chief. I really like the tribal chief. I don't like too much the way he is winning the match, because one time is okay, 2 times is okay, 3 times is too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's really improved also in front of a camera. That is really, really important in the WWE, because he is much important as W.
Yeah.
And I think this tribal chief is a really special character for Roman Reigns, because you know he's a real champion, but probably something could be better. But the tribal chief convinced everyone in Italy. I don't know in the USA, but in Italy everyone is convinced about Roman Reigns, or not everyone, but the much part of WWE fans in Italy like this Roman Reigns. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of going back. You know, I started back in January this year. I finally got back into watching Raw and SmackDown every week, and so still a little bit newer to the tribal chief character. Obviously, I've still watching, you know, through Facebook and whatnot on YouTube, seeing clips here and there. But so far, I guess I like it's not quite, you know, like, oh man, I think this is the best thing, you know, best character ever, but definitely like the change, you know, because we had for years, you kind of mentioned that, Eagle, about how for years we were hoping that Roman Reigns would turn heel. You know, he was kind of this generic, you know, babyface character. And then, you know, finally in 2020, they finally decided to flip the switch and have him do as a heel. So I think it was a nice change of pace for Roman Reigns. I think the babyface character was getting pretty stale for a lot of fans and whatnot. So I think in general, I just, no matter what, I always think you kind of need to just figure out some differences. You know, like Chris Jericho, I think is a perfect example of someone who's always, you know, reinventing himself, coming up with something different, you know. And I think it was really time for Roman Reigns to do that. And so, yeah, I'm excited too to see, especially because I don't think he's only wrestled one match in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, the one match at the Royal Rumble. So especially now too, with we were talking about Edge, you know, and if he'll face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, spear versus spear, you know, I think there's definitely like a lot of cool possibilities for that. And then also just the tribal chief character, you know, like this seems like they're, just really, this is like building up to a match between Roman Reigns versus The Rock. I think that it's like, it's just written out right there. Rock comes back, you're not the tribal chief till you beats the great one, and that's, I think that could just be a huge match. I don't know who should necessarily win it, if it should be Roman Reigns or The Rock, but, that's like a WrestleMania level match, Roman Reigns versus The Rock. And maybe we'll see that. It doesn't seem like we're going to be getting that at WrestleMania this year, but if they keep this tribal chief character going for another year, maybe next year's WrestleMania, we could see that. But I think it's just like as soon as I started seeing this, the tribal chief character, like, this just has all the makings of a great match between Roman Reigns and The Rock. Even before that, there was always talks and dream matches of like, oh, Roman Reigns versus The Rock, because they have part of the same family. They have that similar background in some ways. They both were football players before they became WWE stars. They have, can't remember what generation of wrestler The Rock is, but Rock is a third generation wrestler. Roman Reigns is, I'm not exactly sure, but they have that wrestling history to them, that wrestling blood. So I think the tribal chief character is really awesome. I think there's a lot of possibilities. Edge this year and maybe The Rock next year. We'll see. It's awesome.
I really hope, because if I will go to WrestleMania the next year, I really hope. I want to see The Rock, because I really like The Rock and this Roman Reigns. E ci dice Tavat Corner che è vero, ogni tanto i wrestler hanno bisogno di un cambiamento, e anche lo stesso Chris Jericho ne è stato un esempio, e con questo Tribal Chief sicuramente si può creare qualcosa di molto importante, magari quest'anno in un match spear contro Edge, ma anche il prossimo anno, magari a WrestleMania, in un match contro The Rock, perché sappiamo che provengono dalla stessa famiglia, 2 generazioni differenti, un background molto simile anche per il loro passato nel football, insomma hanno praticamente la storia già scritta, e insomma ragazzi, ha ragione, la pensa alla mia stessa maniera, lo sapete ormai meglio di me. I want to say hello to my friend Aldo Fiadone. Aldo Fiadone is one Italian podcaster. He has the Pro Wrestling Culture podcast. Is a really special podcast, and if you want, you can follow this podcast, because he also talk in English with a very important number, of international guests. Last one, Raja Burke, the Pope. So he is very very good at his job. And Aldo says to you, did you see any similarities about the turn of Roman Reigns and the same turn of Hogan in 1996?
I guess between the two, in some ways no. Like in the sense of, Hulk Hogan was that guy who was the baby face for the longest time, and I imagine that fans back, like in the early 90s were probably saying like, come on, just turn Hogan heel, and WWE never did that. And then of course WCW, who was a baby face for I think maybe like roughly a year, because I think he came, or maybe it was 2. I can't remember if it was 94 or 95 that he came in. But so in like same way with Roman Reigns, I can kind of see that, because we were just talking about that, how for years, fans were saying like, come on, just turn Roman Reigns heel. It's like this babyface thing isn't working anymore. We need a heel Roman Reigns. And it, took a while. Same thing with Hulk Hogan. It took a while for him to finally pull that switch and say, okay, Hulk Hogan heel turn. And same thing with Roman Reigns too. It took a while. People I remember back like 2014 were saying turn Roman Reigns heel. It wasn't until 2020 that they finally did. So in that sense, that 2 guys who were longtime baby faces turning heel, I can see that similarity.
Yeah. So Aldo speaks English, so I will not translate this. Take it by yourself. Also, Aldo says, can Rock versus Roman will have the same impact of Rock and Hogan of WrestleMania 18? A classic of the torch.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's a little bit different though, in the sense that like at WrestleMania 18, think wrestling was still fairly hot at that point, because we were just gotten through the Monday Night Wars and that whole rivalry. And so I think there was a little bit more kind of in the pop culture and just in the mainstream sense. I think wrestling was a little bit more on everyone's spectrum. And so, and a lot of people, know who Hulk Hogan is and whatnot. And he was kind of a icon of pro wrestling. That's like the way some people even just knew, like, oh, pro wrestling, that's the thing that Hulk Hogan does, and so The Rock was still, big star, but mostly just in the wrestling world. And so, and we kind of are having that to now, The Rock is in that position that Hulk Hogan was in a way where, people, even if they're not wrestling fans, they tend to know, like, oh yeah, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and like, they sort of know that he did the wrestling thing. And so I think I'll lean towards, I think they can have the same impact, a little bit different now, because I don't think as many people are watching, WWE as they were back then in 2002 when Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. And so, but I think it still can have a lot of impact, especially now, because, like as soon as they announce that match or tease that match, that social media is going to be blowing up and everyone's going to say, oh, Rock, versus Roman Reigns, So in some ways it'll be a little bit different, but I think it can still have some of that same impact, almost like these two different generations facing off. And even too, what's kind of cool in this scenario is since they're both from the Anawahi family, The Rock and Roman Reigns, there's that added in storyline element of two family members fighting, just adds a little more tension that The Rock versus Hogan didn't have. And so could, in some ways, perhaps it could even be bigger than The Rock versus Hogan, but we'll see if that happens. I would love to see The Rock versus Roman Reigns. And so, but who knows if we're going to get it. Maybe it'll just be a dream match.
Yeah. Ono, non so se tu hai qualche domanda da fare, se mai te la traduco anch'io, e se avevi qualche curiosità.
No, più che altro è una domanda che solitamente facciamo a tanti wrestler, ai tanti wrestler italiani che sono venuti qua in live da noi, e solitamente anche, o comunque altri colleghi di YouTubers, eccetera. Come è arrivato lui ad amare il wrestling? Com'è che è nato il suo interesse per il wrestling? Qua in Italia, bene o male, siamo più o meno tutti nati nello stesso modo. Nel 2005, dal 2003 in poi ci siamo avvicinati al wrestling perché su Italia 1 c'era Smackdown. Sarei curioso di capire come un americano si approccia al wrestling per la prima volta.
So my partner in crime, Hono, says that we everyone in Italy knows wrestling in the same year, probably in the first years of the 2000, and because in TV there was Smackdown, but we have tell to everyone to make an appearance in this let's talk. How you enjoyed wrestling? What is your first remembering of wrestling?
It's a little tricky because I kind of wasn't like instantly like just became a fan. There was kind of a period where I was kind of like almost like a curious fan, I guess, where I kind of would just try watching clips here and there. But I think one of my first real wrestling memories was around 2009. And it's kind of funny. It was NWA, which they're still running there. Obviously, it was a little bit different then, but they apparently were running a show at my town, and they must have worked out a deal to broadcast it locally. And so it's on the TV. All of a sudden, I saw this, show. It looked nice. It wasn't anything fancy. Maybe a few hundred people or so in attendance. And so, but yeah, I started watching it. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. The characters, and then the athleticism. They're doing all these cool moves. People are getting thrown to the outside of the ring and stuff. And so it was kind of funny too, because thinking of names who were on that show, some of them I vaguely remember. I don't think they really went to WWE or became huge names, but I do remember the Young Bucks were on that show, which is, it's interesting. They didn't come to WWE, but they've started All Elite Wrestling, and whatnot. But they were on that first show I remember watching. And I think Viscera or Big Daddy V was on that show there as well. He was called King V at the time, and then later on, I remembered, oh yeah, okay, he was Viscera in WWE. I found that out later, but that was kind of my first memory. And then also too, I think the other thing that kind of helped get me into wrestling was the WCW games on Nintendo 64. And so, because I was always a huge video game kid growing up, and obviously didn't have a lot of money, but my video game store, my used video game store, would sell N64 games, and the wrestling ones were always like pretty cheap, like $2. And so I was just like, I just want something new. I want to add a new game to my collection, just something new to play. And that was kind of what interested me, got me introduced to wrestling. And then it was like the characters, and then storylines and whatnot, that were the thing that really intrigued me. Like I remember one of the first wrestling video games I played was WCW Nitro on the Nintendo 64, and Sting was in it. And I thought, wow, this guy's like face paint. He's it's just so much of this really out there character and whatnot. And so that was kind of my introduction to wrestling. And then my family didn't have cable TV or anything, so kind of through YouTube actually is how I was able to watch clips, and I got really into Triple H because I loved his entrance music and everything. And so I'd always be looking up for Triple H matches here and there. And then slowly I got to understand how things worked, because there was like, so there's like this thing called Raw, and there's this thing called Smackdown. There's like Survivor Series, and it's really confusing for me when I was first getting into it. I didn't get like, why is there so many different shows and they all have different names then. But as I went along, I understood it more, and how things work. There's the television show, the pay-per-views and whatnot. And I just kind of kept spiraling. And then finally I did start watching the show regularly, and here we are now. So
yeah. Ci dice che praticamente lui ha anche un primo ricordo della NWA nel 2009, e sicuramente si ricorda tantissimo anche del ruolo degli Young Bucks che ha adorato. Poi ci ha parlato anche di WCW Nitro, a cui lui si è avvicinato, ed inoltre poi ha detto che lui, vedendo i primi momenti in WWE, si è veramente avvicinato al personaggio di Triple H, di cui amava veramente tantissimo anche la musica di entrata, bellissima. E poi insomma ha detto che non riusciva a capire magari alcune dinamiche, ma poi col tempo è riuscito a capirle, e adesso siamo arrivati a questo livello. So now I want to let's talk about one comment. What would you all think if a stable including Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso? So it could be a great stable, but I don't think Brock Lesnar will be in a stable with Roman Reigns, because I will really enjoy if Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns will have a feud together, because the figure of Paul Heyman could be a really potential important object of this rivalry. And I think that Brock Lesnar against Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman in this rivalry could be really good. And so I would prefer a feud against that Brock Lesnar could have against Roman Reigns, between even if this stable could be so good, but I really prefer the feud between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I guess I think it definitely sounds cool. But I guess the thing would be for me is just kind of figuring out a way for Brock Lesnar to join Roman Reigns, because obviously they've had their feuds, they're not in storyline, they're not necessarily the closest of people. And so, and one thing I like about the tribal chief persona and whatnot that Roman Reigns has is kind of that Samoan, heritage and whatnot, and the Anawahi. So I think that makes it perfect for, Jey Uso fits in there so well. And then hopefully Jimmy Uso might join it once he's back and healed and everything. And so I think more so there'd be a really interesting storyline. I don't know exactly how you would do it, but Roman Reigns, he currently has Paul Heyman as manager. Brock Lesnar, if he comes back, he's not under contract right now, but if he comes back, I think that could make for an interesting dynamic. You got Roman Reigns, getting managed by Paul Heyman, and Heyman was always Brock Lesnar's manager. He was his agent, so I think that could be, I don't know if it would be, doesn't make sense to necessarily do a have Paul Heyman hang from a pole and Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are fighting over him. But I think there's that built-in kind of tension with both guys, having some, being very successful. Paul Heyman, joins Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns becomes Universal Champion. And, Brock Lesnar, of course, all his success that he's had with Paul Heyman. And so I think there's just some built-in tension with both those guys, their own, history they've had with each other. But now with Paul Heyman both kind of guiding both those guys, I think there'd be a lot of potential for some interesting stuff if Brock Lesnar decides to come back to WWE with him and Roman Reigns.
Yeah. So do you really like a probably feud against Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns too? No.
Yeah, maybe. I guess the one thing, I'm always kind of someone who likes new matches. Like that's one thing between Drew McIntyre. Like if Edge was going to face Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, I do prefer Roman Reigns for a number of reasons, but one of them is because Edge and Drew McIntyre have wrestled each other technically. It was like on Smackdown. I remember seeing it just a little bit ago. It popped up in my recommendation. So obviously they could do a lot cooler stuff now, considering the position they're in and the experience they both have. But it's like we technically have already seen, that match, Drew McIntyre versus Edge. And so in the same way, we've also seen Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns already. So I'm always more of a fan of like, well, what's something different we could do? Could we have like, I don't know, I'm trying to think if Edge has ever wrestled Brock Lesnar back during Lesnar's first run in the company. But, I'm always kind of like thinking, is there any like new matches we could do? I know there's always room for doing matches and whatnot that have already been done, but I always tend to lean towards like, is there someone new Brock Lesnar could feud with? Bobby Lashley again, haven't wrestled yet. Or Cesaro, I think would be another one.
Yeah,
especially
Bobby Lashley against Brock Lesnar could be really good. Yeah.
So
I think one day we will see this match.
Yeah, I really hope so. It's like Bobby
So
Lashley came back.
if one day Brock Lesnar will fight against Bobby Lashley, we will do a video together to
I'll agree to that.
Our joy.
let's plan on that. That'd be awesome. Hopefully, we just gotta get Brock Lesnar to sign another contract, and then hopefully finally do it because
live reaction.
Yeah, exactly. And like they've had so much time to do it because Lashley came back in 2018. It's like it seemed like all those matches were just like, oh yeah, these two got to go at it. And I mean, there's still time, so hopefully WWE can make it happen.
We hope. So the last two questions, and after we will say hello to our guest. So one is we will fight the Raw Women's Champion Asuka at Wrestlemania.
That's a good question. I kind of feel like, especially too, recently it's like because they've been doing a lot of stuff with her and Alexa Bliss recently, and it always kind of seemed like Asuka took a back seat in those matches because it was always like Randy Orton getting involved and stuff, and focusing more on Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton, as opposed to Asuka and the Raw Women's Championship. So I can't really think of anybody. Maybe I guess one that popped into my head was maybe if Becky Lynch is ready to go, like have her come back, maybe a little later this month or maybe March. I might be pushing a little too close, but have her come back because remember she vacated the title last year, to go on maternity leave, and so having her come back, and getting that opportunity to reclaim the title she didn't lose, and she actually awarded Asuka the Raw Women's Championship. I think that would be there's a storyline right there, that you don't really need to do a whole lot to build up. It's just right there. So if Becky Lynch is ready to go, she's good, then I'd say let's do Becky Lynch versus Asuka. That's kind of the first one that came to my mind when I asked that question. But otherwise, I can't. I'm sure there's other members of the roster who could make for really great matches, but that's one I think perfect storyline right there. Without a whole lot you need to do. So I'd say go with Becky Lynch versus Asuka. I think that'd be a great match.
Yeah. Becky Lynch contro Asuka potrebbe essere anche un grandissimo match, perché appunto Becky Lynch potrebbe riprendersi quel titolo che non ha mai perso, perché alla fine è lei che lo ha donato ad Asuka in un certo modo, e quindi potrebbe essere un grande match fra queste due. So Becky Lynch versus Asuka could be good. Could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheridan, tell us if you will do the video together for the match between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, I will see it only if you will tifare you will support Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I don't know. I really like Bobby Lashley. Yeah, so I don't know. So the last one comment and the last one question by Aldo about WCW and their stars. You have talked about WCW. There is a chance to see again another wrestler like Sting, simply an icon of a wrestling company.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely that potential there. It's like a case like where one of the things I think it makes it a little bit trickier now, like with WWE in particular, is when they have so many shows and so much content out there to get like one person to be, the icon. Because you think back to like when Hulk Hogan was the icon of WWE, it was, they had, obviously had their shows and whatnot. They're still doing a decent number of programming, but it was a lot smaller then. So I think it's easier when this company's a little bit smaller. It's much easier to build someone around it, and in the system that WWE currently has with Raw and Smackdown, I think it makes it a little tricky to have, one person be the icon for the entire company, because you kind of, those two separate brands, almost two separate kind of universes and whatnot, those two separate identities of the company. And so I think there's always potential for it. And like, in a way, I kind of feel like John Cena still is an icon for WWE. When I'm thinking of icon, I'm thinking of the person that, your average everyday person would, recognize, who doesn't watch wrestling, but like they think of WWE and like, oh, WWE, that's the place where John Cena wrestled, right? And John Cena's still in that phase, I think, where he's still pretty recent. He does still do a decent amount of stuff with WWE. He's still, I think, fresh. He's still current enough that he can still be kind of considered the face, kind of like The Rock, I feel like for a while sort of was, but now he's been gone from WWE for so long that I don't think a lot of people really recognize him as an icon for it. I still think John Cena is in a way the icon for WWE, just someone that your average ordinary person, just recognizes. They think WWE and like, oh yeah, that's the place where John Cena, wrestled and did his thing, And so, but I think AEW is a better example of like a company that could have an icon just because they have Dynamite and that's about it. And so they have a lot of, I think it's just a case where they have so many really great stars like, Cody Rhodes, for example, Chris Jericho. And there's one I'm completely blanking on his name, but a number of stars there. I think that makes it a little easier for them to have an icon just because they have one show versus WWE that has like 6 shows, Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK, 205 Live, Main Event, and all their pay-per-views as well. But I think there's always potential for there to be that icon, that one person that kind of represents the entire company. And so I think in WWE's case, it's someone who's kind of part-time at the moment with John Cena. There's always, I think, potential for someone new to take that mantle who is full-time. And so
penso proprio di sì che potrebbero esserci potenzialmente anche delle personalità che fanno la storia di una compagnia, che diventano veramente anche delle icone, come lo è stato anche in WWE lo stesso John Cena, che insomma si sentiva parlare ovunque dello stesso John Cena, e vede anche magari all'interno della AEW, può pensare anche a Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, e insomma, quindi è probabile che c'è il potenziale per crearne delle nuove. So there is the potential for it. So we really hope because we really like. So now we are going to finish this live, but first, because we have talked too much about Bobby Lashley today, I want to see this too.
Awesome.
Is the old one, but so thank you all for follow us today, and I really hope that you have enjoyed this live Teapot Corner, and I'm sorry if my translation in some points was not too good, but I have tried to do the best for my followers, and I hope you have appreciate my technique on my ability on English, and really thank you.
Awesome stuff, man. You're doing good.
Really thank you, because I think that the wrestling community can could be unite in every country, and I think that it could be not the last one collaboration that we could do together. I don't know if you want, but we probably. I have one idea for you. Because we have in our channel one program, that is the comedy pills. That is a format in which Hono, and I rest in pills, the guy who that I have who I have said hello before, talks about the comedy moment in WWE. So one time, probably, we will do a video together about the best comedy moments in WWE, if you want. So we are in contact, so we could decide for it. And another one thing that is a special thing for us, because today is a very important day for Eagle and Dono Let's Talk, because from today we will create some contents for our fans that are not Italians. So we will do some contents in English, obviously in English, but we are not Americans, we are not English ones, but we try to do our best for the contents also for our fans that are not Italian from today. So if you want, subscribe to our channel, because you can find everything in our channel also in English language, and but obviously we talk in Italian in the best in the major part of our videos. Dicevo, ragazzi, che da oggi esce un nuovo format, possiamo dire, sul nostro canale. Da oggi il nostro canale cambia totalmente assetto. Da oggi porteremo dei contenuti anche completamente in lingua inglese, ovviamente per quanto possiamo, ovviamente per quanto cerchiamo di fare del nostro meglio, possiamo dire. Ovviamente il canale rimane un canale italiano, la maggior parte dei contenuti saranno in italiano, però se un giorno ci va di portare un video in inglese, pensa ad una rubrica o meno, saremo felici di farlo, ovviamente nella lingua che accomuna tutto il mondo. So, now, the bot corner. Say hello to our fans. Thank you very much from me and Hono for your company, for your disponibility, for your and very, very compliments for your channel, because Tap Out Corner is on YouTube, guys. Is on YouTube. So if you want, subscribe to the channel of Tap Out Corner. He has a lot of fans, but he will be very, very happy if you also subscribe to his channel. So really thank you, Tap Out, and have a nice day. Have a nice life on YouTube, but also in the real life.
Yeah, no, thank you, Eagle and Ono, for having me on the show. I enjoyed it a lot, so thank you so much. And thanks for all the awesome questions that everyone sent in. I had a blast just talking wrestling. It's awesome.
Thank you very much. Grazie a tutti, ragazzi. Seguite Tap Out Corner. Trovate il link in descrizione, link in bio for Tap Out Corner. So please follow Tap Out Corner. Grazie mille a tutti, ragazzi. Ci vediamo nel prossimo episodio. We will see Tap Out Corner probably in next episode of Let's Talk. And see you soon, guys. Thank you very much for the attention. Kisses, hugs, everything. And love wrestling ever. Amate sempre wrestling. Ciao ragazzi.